Hey up, folks! It's Autumn Witch here with another accent. Got another accent for you. Yes, I'm Autumn Witch, and you are.
I'm Amy, aka Warp Fiend.
And the one in the Goblin Loft.
I am the loftiest of goblins, and all the lofts of paint filled with at least 14 goblins.
There's very much a goblin theme and a biliousness as well. So yeah, we're going to have a talk about a recent occurrence that I'm sure a lot of other people have already talked about, but essentially a lot of the Space Marine range and stuff from other ranges has been bumped by GW into the Legends category, which a lot of people are a little bit salty about.
Yes, there has been an understandable negative reaction to some of this, with people's beloved armies that they've had for many years suddenly being no longer tournament legal.
Yes, but it's also not just that. If it were just that, I wouldn't have as big of an issue as I do. But let's move on. We've got the slideshow up. There we go. Legends Hammer. Is it really a big deal?
No.
So, coming straight in with the spicy takes.
Oh, yes. So what is affected? Mostly tournament and competitive players. You can still play casual games with a lot of these units. It's affecting mostly Firstborn Space Marines. Almost all factions have units that have moved to Legends, but none to the same degree as the Loyalist Space Marines.
Poor Death Guard possessed.
Yeah. Yeah. Some units have disappeared entirely, like Space Marine Company veterans. The Heresy era dreadnoughts that you can still take as legends in a Space Marine army are now completely not supported for Chaos Space Marine players.
A lot of the backbone of people's Chaos Space Marine armies was the Leviathan dreadnoughts, so yeah, there's been some complaining.
Yeah, and see, this is where this affects more than just people who play tournaments. That those rules just don't exist. Also, the fact that doing this has made the 10th edition data sheets just out of date. The downloadable ones, the ones online, can be adjusted and tweaked and everything. But if you've gone out and you've bought the Space Marines data cards, and if you're a player of a more niche chapter like Death Watch or Dark Angels, Blood Angels, etc., you're going to need those cards as well as your own faction ones. That's affecting quite a lot of units. Now, GW have been suggesting proxying, which we'll come back to in more detail later. But for a lot of people, WYSIWYG is important. What you see is what you get. And that's also something that seems to be causing a bit of annoyance. And also that there's no like-for-like replacements yet for all of the units that have been discontinued.
Yep. So it's pretty grim. You're going to analyse how this pans out.
Well, I think we're going to discuss how it could pan out. I don't profess to see the future too much, but yes, there are.
Call yourself a YouTuber.
Okay, I will absolutely guarantee something and point out that whenever I say I absolutely guarantee something, that is not actually a guarantee. But yeah, so the current
Can you
model
make a
line.
guarantee of that?
I should point you towards a lawyer or something. But yeah, it's so the Venerable Dreadnought kit is still for sale, but it's listed in Legends as a unit, the Venerable Dreadnought. But there are also kits that have been recently discontinued, like a lot of the Firstborn Space Marine characters and specialized units, but they still have rules in the modern game. So there are kits that you can buy that you can't play in a tournament, and there are kits that you can't buy that you could play in a tournament.
Interesting. Yeah. So GW being as confusing as possible, as usual.
It's like a sort of shock and awe tactic. It's like, what on earth's going on? They think they're going to wave like some new units for the codex at us, and we'll all go, ooh, shiny.
So my never to be finished and published talking head Uncle Adam style video on this. I get we're mad. I can see why somebody would be mad about this and think that that's a reasonable reaction in modern day society to finding out your favorite parts or your favorite units in a game are being retired.
Yeah.
Except this is not a modern society game. This is Warhammer. It's been around for, shut up, 50 years. The units that are being retired are physical objects.
Yes.
They can't take them away.
I know.
The games you're playing are with other people. You can make up and play with whatever rules you want. And we're so used to game updates being patches for video games that mean when this goes through, poof, this thing is gone. All this thing we invested our emotional comfort in, poof, it's gone. But that's not going to happen here. Not really. The models are still there. The rules are still there. People are arguing about how they don't. There was somebody on Winehammer complaining that they haven't played Warhammer because of 6th edition. 40K because of 6th edition. They're still playing 6th edition with their friends. And now this shit happens. And it's like, guy, you've already got the solution.
Rules. You know what you're doing.
Just keep doing what you're enjoying. This doesn't affect you.
I will say I agree with that in general, but what you've got to look at is the kind of percentages. The hardcore gamers who have the solid gaming groups who are going to be, read up on an older edition and have enough people interested in it to keep playing that will still be able to. But casual players will not be able to use them because they might not be able to, if they go down the local Games Workshop trying to find a game or that might be, oh no, you can't use those here or something. Although it is obviously tournament, but people will use the rules that are current just because it's the easiest option. So you do cut a lot of people out of using their collection unless they have
caveat. I've gone to Games Workshop for unofficial games once, twice myself as part of a 40K group with the university, and 2 or 3 times gone there to meet Vicky and her friends. And both times the friends were playing like Warhammer Fantasy 4th edition. You can play the old games in the Games Workshop stores. Well, you can play the old games in Games Workshop HQ. Maybe you can't go into the Games Workshop stores and play old games because are we allowed to actually play games in the Games Workshop stores? I thought they got rid of that in the 90s.
Well, no, they did up to a few years ago. I don't know if you currently can since lockdown. I guess they occasionally have they have school games nights and stuff. But it used to be you just go in with your army and you'd go hey, does anyone here want a game against me? If you didn't know other people that were playing it. But yeah, I don't know how common that is now anyway, which is a shame.
So then the person that's going to be upset and worried. So the idea that you can't use these in casual games anymore because they're not allowed in tournaments, it feels really contradictory to me. Now, maybe when people say a casual game, they mean a game using the tournament rules that were published last week. But why can't you use the legend stuff that Games Workshop says is great and fine for casual games? Why can't we use that in casual games?
We will be coming to this on a later slide.
I recognize that for something like a combat patrol game where you want the whole portions ready to go. But
yeah,
it feels like too much tied in. It feels like somebody's too much emotionally tied into the marketing thing of it. And if their toys, or if the toys they want to eventually buy someday and paint, or if the toys that they've already bought and haven't painted yet, or the toys that they painted 10 years ago aren't being pushed, then they feel like that's weakening their purchase.
That's
and I
fair.
think that's a big thing here, and that's strange and distressing. So then it falls back on the online game thing of my units are being removed from the game. That's about the extent of my rant. The hyper up-to-date aggressive tournament players will go out and buy 90 grots when they find out that the rules let 90 grots avoid any sort of penalties.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the slideshow for now, and we'll discuss more rants later.
Yeah. So, yeah, also, because GW have been talking about, you can proxy stuff, which in and of itself is a weird thing for GW to be sort of so enthusiastically suggesting. Because, normally the rule is, if you don't have the exact model for it, you can buy another one that's the exact model for it. But for the things that they're proxying, they say you can proxy the old bikes for the new Outriders, but then the build options for the old bikes are different. You don't have like any war gear options for the Outriders, but you have a lot of options. And it's the same with Assault Marines, because apparently now, you could just proxy them as Vanguard veterans, but most people who have assault squads have got at least like 2 special weapons in there and an eviscerator, and those things cannot be taken by Vanguard veterans.
Can Vanguard veterans take jump packs?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Another thing that's still missing for Space Marines, although there have been rumoured ones.
Yeah.
Well, we had the Raven Horn, Raven Guard, the Raven Guard leader, Primarch, when he was Primarchified, his new model had a
Chapter Master,
and also
K-Van
Dante
Shrike
had one.
Yeah, he's got a jump pack that's not an aggressor suit, so we know that existed. And then it was in the Space Marine 2 trailer, and people went ballistic like the Raven Guard Chapter Master didn't already have one.
Anyway.
Yeah. Now there's another. There's hang on. Feel like crap, but yeah, let's crack on. Now there are instances. The one off the top of my head at the moment, I say top of my head, it's on the slide in front of me, is that for the character Sergeant Tellian, and in 10th edition, attaching characters to units is a big part of the game. The thing is, they haven't bumped Tellian into Legends, but they've bumped the units he can be attached to into Legends, which makes him pretty much useless, as opposed to a dude giving like really cool buffs to sniper scouts. He's just like one lone dude with a heavy bolt gun, and he's not really going to do much. And so it kind of feels like they've ripped things out without having built like the structure beneath to keep them going. The next point is that Space Marines can take Heresy units with Legends rules, which is fine, but Chaos Marines can't. We mentioned this before. But so like Contemptor Dreadnoughts, Leviathan Dreadnoughts, Derrideos, Spartan, and loads of the Heresy tanks that were perfectly okay to take right up until the end of 9th edition, and we're getting nice shiny new kits for the Horus Heresy. Whereas the Space Marines can take them with Legends rules, Chaos Space Marines can't.
Oh dear, as a Chaos player, I've got to say this is pretty typical, to be honest. They are trying to differentiate Chaos with like the demon engines rather than the Space Marine vehicles with spikes on. But
Yeah.
a lot of Chaos Space Marine players want to collect the actual like Space Marine stuff, but with spikes on. It's fun. It's like a big part of the character of the army.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they've also phased out, as I can see your next point, a lot of the demon engines as well from Forgeworld. So
yeah,
screw you if you're a Chaos player, I guess.
yeah, you've spent a lot of money in Forgeworld, and now it's like, oh well, you can still use them in Heresy. It's like, I bought them because I don't play Heresy. I play 40k, and you could take them in 40k, which was right. So
I'll reintroduce something.
yeah, so it feels like there's effectively now 3 tiers of units in 40k. You've got Tournament Legal, which is all available units for the current data sheet. Got Legends units that are meant to only be used in casual games, and then there's discontinued units that would require a degree of home brewing to work in the game. And yeah, you kind of have to be on the same page with your opponent, which is fine if you're playing it amongst friends. I mean, I would be perfectly happy for Amy to homebrew some like relic units for whatever Chaos Space Marine army I'm about to destroy. And
oh dear.
And yeah, I would be fine with that. But even in like more casual settings, like just going into a gaming store, you know, you're gonna have people of all sorts of opinions, because there's one thing that 40k players do have, and that's opinions. And so it's going to be harder to find someone that is on your same like level with how they feel about the rule set, because I've known people that only play casually but insist on playing by tournament rules, or
Tammy.
no, what?
Sorry, but doesn't that make it better? Because you can get into more arguments.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah, we've got to love a hobby-based argument. But yeah, so there's now like 3 tiers. A lot of folk have trouble getting a game together, and now there's like they've just added like more obstacles to getting to play with the units that you want. One of the big things, the big things they pushed for 10th edition was that, oh, now you can take all the units that you want to a certain amount. You don't have to pay like the troops tax anymore and everything. You can take an entire army of Firstborn Marines if that's what you want. You can take an entire company of them, and then you can't because they've just discontinued the assault squad.
All the Firstborns? I thought we still had stuff like
we do.
Still had tactical squads and Devastator squads.
Yes,
I think Tammy was saying there's not enough stuff to make a complete company of Space Marines that would include like, you know, the Devastators and the assault and whatever.
Yeah. They say a full company. For a full company, you need 2 squads of assault marines. Now, those assault marines, you can swap those out for marines on bikes. They are considered assault marines. Oh, wait, hang on a sec. Didn't they just discontinue the bikes as well? Yes, they did.
Well, you can still take them. You just call them Outriders.
Yeah, I mean, and you can still play with them as legends because there are the legends elements there. But people are feeling a little bit misled over the situation. So, but yeah, okay. We've got the Centurions there, which are perfectly tournament legal, even though most Space Marine players absolutely hate them. Then we've got to dip into Legends to be able to play with basic Assault Marines, which have been part of the game since Rogue Trader, and you're going to have to homebrew some rules to be able to take a Contempt of Dreadnought in a Chaos Army, which, because there are no rules for it, it's not just tournament players that are missing out, it's everyone who has invested in a unit that was completely legal, and it's just skipped Legends, and it's ended up just completely discontinued in the game, and that's infuriating, especially since I have a Emperor's Children Contempt of Dreadnought, ready to paint once I've got through all these Death Watch. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening, certainly.
Just a bit, yeah. But yeah, let's move on to the next thing. So proxying. Let's have a chat about proxying. What's bad about proxying with the old models? Because
Yeah, 2 or 3 games that I went to play at Warhammer World were full of proxies.
well, it's not really surprising. They kind of have to be the way that they're ditching various units. But
No, this was during 8th. This was for
a lot
Dark
of
Elder
people
stuff that the guy just wanted to hand build.
A lot of people who are pretty casually into the hobby proxy a lot anyway. I know I used to do it quite a lot. I try and have everything WYSIWYG these days, but yeah.
But it's like one of the big things is the disparity in base sizes, because the rules in 40k have always been like base to base, and they've always been quite strict on like tournament legal bases. So you can't really proxy the things that they're saying. You can proxy like the bikes for the Outriders.
Well, I think they expect you to rebase everything. Like, people whose fantasy armies suddenly became Age of Sigmar and had to go on round bases, and now if they want to use those same armies in fantasy or in Old World, it's got to go back on squares.
Yeah, I mean, I rebased all of my Space Marines when the base size went up from 25mm to 32. I'm not gonna. The thing is, it's not using your current models if you have to essentially disassemble the model in part and do more work on it. You can't just grab your bike squad and your attack bike and then say, okay, well, this is a Invader ATV with like 6 Outriders. Ignore the 2 plasma guns. Ignore the Power Fist on the Sergeant.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
I still miss my Nurgle bikers from 7th edition.
You know what? If you want to come up with some cool homebrew rules for it, I would be perfectly happy to play a game of just get all the old units that we liked that we can't have anymore.
Oh yeah, that would be an interesting video. Maybe for future.
Yeah, but also there's the alternative build options. Where, it's like with the. I know that the biker kit is just that basic dude times 3, but the kit was designed to be. I mean, I first bought that biker model back in like 1996. When it first came out.
I have the Chaos version.
Yeah, they've made they've modified it a bit, basically like the waist of the Marine, but the sculpt is essentially the same. But yeah, you get like the 3 basic bikers, but they're designed to be compatible with the other Space Marine kits. So you could get like specific upgrade packs for that unit, like a White Scars one, for example, that they used to do. Or you could take another like kit. Like I built a captain on a bike by getting the Space Marine Commander multi-part box and a basic bike, and I just mashed them together, and it looked pretty cool. And then I had a captain on a bike unit.
Nice. Yeah, the Nurgle ones back in the day, everyone used to buy the Forgeworld Death Guard upgrades and put them on the bikes because for some reason it was the strongest unit you could get in the Death Guard army at the time.
Yeah. But yeah, so not all of the units have an equivalent unit to proxy for, which is also an issue that a lot of folk are getting worked up about. I mean, if there are like assault intercessors with jump packs coming, why not just tell us that they're coming and then because it's always annoying when people don't tell you when they're coming.
Yeah. There's a lot of rumours that things are coming to replace this, but until GW confirms it, it's just rumours. And it's like a period of uncertainty for the people who have Lots of money invested in this hobby.
Yeah.
It's not an investment.
It's an emotional investment. It's an investment of time. Okay, shall we have a look at some of the... Hang on, just me coughing like crazy. But yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier as well at this point, that it creates more of a grey area when trying to organise games within the community, because
Yeah.
other players have different views as to what rules should and should not be used in the game that you're about to play. But they could just say, "Oh, well, hang on, no, those aren't tournament legal, so I'm not playing you." Like, this is going to be a casual game.
Hmm.
But that, we are a hobby of people with very staunch views.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. But let's have a look at some of the pros of. Here we go.
Tip tap.
Tip tap, tip tap. But yeah, okay, so pros. You don't need to buy the new models when you have an equivalent proxy. It's like for the examples here, you've got like you can run a regular apothecary with the rules of a Primaris apothecary. I've got the chapter champion in the background. The company champion in the background. You could proxy them as the company champion Primaris one that only exists as a special edition model, which is also absurd because that is perfectly legal and current in the game.
Yeah. It's, one thing when there's not an option for the thing and you have to proxy it. I thought they tried to stop that because it just led to other companies stepping in and making the sculpts and selling them to people, which they were trying to stamp out. But
yeah. But yeah, so it's like the librarian is now being bumped into Legends for whatever reason. I mean, it's not even a particularly old kit. Someone will probably say, "Oh, well, actually, that came out in 1997 or whatever." It didn't. It obviously didn't. It's probably
Wait, the guy on the right, the librarian that the wind is covering up. That's a Primaris one. Is he being Legend?
No, it's the Firstborn librarian beside him that is being legended.
Okay.
The one with all the character and flavor, with the cherub and and the expression on his face, and a nice little action stance.
I can't tell. I can't see the other one, but he looks a bit.
Hang on, how's that?
I probably shouldn't have said anything.
Yep.
I like the new one better.
Oh, right, okay. I'm
heretic.
The shoulder pads look all wrong on the old one. They look way too small.
They are exactly the same size. That's the whole.
And his head and chest are too big.
Heads, shoulder pads, and hands are the same. Are the same scale between Firstborn and Primaris. It's like, obviously like the body proportions are different, but it's so you can use like upgrade bits.
Pop cap. That's what I'm thinking.
Pop cap.
There's little vinyl figures that we're supposed to like, but nobody likes, but they still buy them for each other. There's like a whole shelf of them in Forbidden Planet.
Oh, Funko Pops.
Oh, Funko Pop.
Yeah. Oh god.
the sort of last generation of Firstborn, or the last generation of metal Firstborn, are all Pop Cap figures. Funko Pop figures.
Funko Pop.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a pro for proxying. If you like the older model better, you can use it as a proxy.
That's always good, to be fair.
If you don't care about WYSIWYG, then it shouldn't really matter to anyone. Although I can imagine various players having an issue with proxying, even though Games Workshop are encouraging it now for some reason. Another cool thing is that with the new edition, certain like power weapons are basically like just like one rule. So power swords, power axes, power lances, they all just come under power weapons and have the same stat line. So it doesn't matter if the dude you're proxying is supposed to have a power sword but has a power axe, or vice versa. It also means you can put more power axes on models, and it just looks cool because I love power axes. So there are some definite pros for being able to proxy. I do worry as to the like in-game or the like competitive legality of it, because GW haven't commented on that. But one assumes that every model in a official tournament is going to have to be the official model for the current stat line.
You'd think so, or usually like an appropriate conversion with WYSIWYG.
Yeah. Yes, let's move on. Or try to. Hang on.
Come on. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Nope, there we go. Stay here.
Okay, hang on. I shall. Right. So a lot of the ill feeling is on an emotive level, I feel. But you know, there's a lot of good, rational arguments about this, but on an emotive level, it don't feel right to a lot of folks. And
yes,
yeah, I am completely acknowledging that and accepting of that fact. But you know, the emotive reasons a lot of people are having to deal with it is because there are so many classic units that are just gone now from being currently supported. It's something shunted into Legends. It's basically saying you can still play with it, but you kind of can't do anything more with it. It's, if you want to be able to play the same way, you need to buy the new stuff. And so people think, well, you know what, I've put like 10, 15, 20, some are 30 years into this hobby, and you know, we've sort of gone along with everything as like the lore grew and the new units came out, the whole like organic evolution of the game across that, you know, that period of however long we've been in it, and then it's just like a Thanos style snap. It kind of feels like, yeah, you know, you can go and watch all these other movies with these characters, but you know, half of them are dead now, half of them are gone. You can do the nostalgia thing with them, but you can only do the nostalgia thing with them because they're gone. They're not being supported in the current iteration of the game. And because the game and the lore are tied so closely together, there's also the feeling that they're going to start disappearing from the lore as well. Well, that leads me to the next point, is uncertainty over the safety of other classic units.
There's certainly a lot of other ones that could be next for the chopping block.
Well, see, that's the thing. There aren't. There aren't. I mean, we talked about, you know, on the third point, the timing of the announcement, because they stated that they were discontinuing a big batch of Space Marine models. Then 10th edition comes out, and then people go and buy all of the data sheets and everything, which you can have online, but you know, they're nice to have in your hand. And now
I'm pretty sure I called on this channel that anyone buying the Space Marines data sheets was an idiot, because they would all be changed very soon.
Yeah.
And yes, turns out I was right.
Yeah. Although one could argue, if you already have them, they don't say that these Legends units are Legends. so you can just keep them at like index hammer as opposed to codex hammer. But
So,
yeah,
like,
that's fair.
if you have a physical copy of the rules, you can keep playing with those rules.
yes, we know
Yes,
that.
The server updates don't matter. It's like Carpilled, but for live service games. But this isn't a live service game. You don't need server updates. You can do whatever the hell you want with your little plastic soldiers.
Yeah, but also finding a game can be more difficult because people hold to different interpretations of the rules, or they have different like preferences. There's not one set of rules.
How's that any
Everyone can
different from
agree
what
on.
it was like before?
I think there's definitely a repetition of it, which is another frustrating thing. But what I'm talking about here is the way that they timed the announcement that these units were then being bumped into Legends. Because people have already been playing these units in 10th edition. 10th edition has been out, what, 2 months? And now...
I've lost track.
Yeah.
Not long.
Yeah. So it's been out for 2 months, and already a load of the Space Marine units have been dis-supported, let's put it. So, yeah. I mean, I can understand, wanting to grab the data sheets and have them. And if your army is one that's not going to be getting its codex for a couple of years, like, I don't know, Thousand Suns or Gene Stealer Cults or whatever, Orcs, you could just, grab them, and those will be, with the exception of the odd FAQ, those will be like the current rule set until the codex comes out. But with Space Marines, it's such a big, hefty chunk of a pack of data cards, and that's before you add. That's before you add.
Did you see the comparison of the data card pack sizes?
I know, it was just so huge, and you've got to think of like the amount of poor trees that were murdered just to fill those Space Marine data cards that last for like 2 months.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And also the additional cost of like your Death Watch or Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Black Templars, Space Wolves. You need both of those packs for it, and it's just, I mean, I can understand if there was like a misprint or a rule that needed FAQing, and so okay, it's not quite that big a deal. You could, if you wanted to, put Tipex on the card and change the value, but to take like a hefty chunk of those cards that forests have died for, yeah, to take that and just say, okay, right, you can't use these units. It's pissing people off.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be fair.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Or at least try to move on to the next one.
Hey.
Here we go.
How are 40K, how is 10th edition like the Barbie movie?
Go on.
A lot of guys are mad it wasn't made specifically for them.
Fair.
Okay, so yeah. Here we have the remaining Firstborn units. There's no Razorback on there, but this is
Rhino, Devastators, Tacticals, they'll be fine.
And Vanguard veterans.
See,
these are Vanguard veterans. Okay, yeah. I thought Vanguard veterans were Primaris for some reason.
No, that's the Sternguard veterans.
It can't be long before the Vanguard veterans are. I mean, there was the Blade Guard veterans. I'm sure there's Vanguard coming.
Yeah. Although they do seem to be pushing like assault squad players towards proxying them as Vanguard veterans, which makes me think that Vanguard aren't going anywhere immediately, but then it's GW.
Wait, did the Land Raider retired?
No.
Okay.
because you can now take Primaris in the Land Raider.
Yeah.
They can ride the fancy bus.
Yep. And you can also play a lot of the Land Raider variants in Legends as well, like the Terminus Ultra, which is just like bristling with las cannons.
Yeah,
Or you get like
I remember that one well.
Oh yeah, they even
need to-
actually had an upgrade kit to make your, and they nerfed it pretty quick, but as an Ultramarine player, you used to be able to take Sergeant Cronus in a Terminus Ultra, which meant it had a unshakable ballistic skill of 2 up.
Please, I still get PTSD from facing up against that thing.
Luckily, he's Legends now, so you'll never see him again, apparently.
He's not Legends, he's just discontinued.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those units that you can play completely legally in any tier of the game, but you can't get the model. You kind of have to kit bash one. But yeah, so these are like, there wasn't space on the slide to fit the Razorback in. They've got quite stingy with the Razorback as well. It's a Legends unit if it has an armament other than the Twin Heavy Bolter or the Twin Las Cannon that the kit comes with. So you can't take an Assault Cannon except in Legends. You can't take a Multi-Melter except in Legends.
Oh dear, that's the weirdest
thing. There's no Primaris Multi-Melter, is there? I can understand the lack of Primaris Grav Gun because it's stupid, but right, with the extradition troops or the
Eliminators or the Eradicators. The Eradicators
that's the one.
have the.
There's like 5 things that want to be the new Primaris version of the Terminator, and they're one of them.
Yeah, the Invader ATV has a multi-melter option as well, but I think that might be about it.
Okay.
But yeah, now what I would love to see is GW say, okay, look.
You'd love to see them give out STLs for the old kits.
I've been saying that for years. I just let other people scan the old models and bung them a few quid and print them myself. But what I would love to see is GW say, okay, these are the last men standing. They have specific roles that aren't filled in the same way by Primaris units. We know people want to keep the Firstborn around. Let's scale them up to the same scale as Horus Heresy, and then you can just have new Tactical Marines, new Devastator Marines, new Vanguard veterans, and yeah. That's just me, wish list. That's not me thinking they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I want Primaris Tactical Squads. It's bugging the crap out of me.
Oh, I know. I get that the thing was everything, it's just easy to build. It's like, you have the unit, it's got these are the rules. They don't have to do complicated ones. But you've got to have some option for, like, tactical squads. You could just have such variance in them, and it's something that's sorely missing.
And on their current data sheet, they've actually been made a little more tactical, because beforehand, if you had 10 of them, you can only take 10 of them now. You can't take them in units of less than 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can either now have them taking a special weapon and a heavy weapon like before, or they can take 2 special weapons. So you can give 2 of them flamers and give your sergeant a combi weapon or something, and they'll be fantastic at breaching because they can just lots of small arms fire into something. Or you can go a bit punchier, with a plasma gun or a las cannon or a heavy bolter or whatever. So you have that tactical flexibility with them that you just, especially now that with Primaris Intercessors, they just it doesn't even matter what model bolt rifle you've given them. They all have the same stat line now, as opposed to the heavy bolt rifles, the normal bolt rifles, or the assault or the auto bolt rifles, which is what I
It's
kind of
interesting.
built my White Scars list around, because in 9th edition they could advance without penalty to firing assault weapons, and the auto bolt rifles were
Yeah.
assault weapons. So that was like each squad pumping out like 30 rounds after advancing, which is so very White Scars. And now that flavor has gone. I'm really hoping that sort of flavor comes back when we get the Space Marines codexes. But yeah, anyway, but back onto this. I mean, the Rhino itself, I can't see them getting rid of it entirely. But
I certainly hope not.
No,
They'd have to get rid of the one outside of Warhammer World and replace it with a fucking Primaris Repulsor or whatever.
How repulsive.
Or they could repaint it as a Chaos one or a Sister of Battle one.
True.
When they got it, it was painted for Ravenwing, and they decided that it had to be Ultramarines, because that was, I guess that's like the rule. At the time, retail stores were supposed to have Ultramarine armies, and anything else you started getting like the area manager nagging you to replace it.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that, because they've got those two big like statues of Mark 7 Marines. I'm surprised they haven't commissioned a Primaris one yet.
Haven't they moved those out of the... Oh, they aren't moved out of the way, are they?
I think
they've got a big statue of a Stormcast Eternal, but they
that's the main one in front of the gates. But yeah.
The Stormcast, what are they made out of? Sorry, I don't remember the name of that specific flavor of Stormcast, despite painting about 10 of them in the last few months. But the thing that stuck out to me is they always felt like they were designed so they could have been made out of PVC instead of hips.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And then they didn't do that. But when they... So I think they're doing this because they're worried about it's like the get rid of the regulars campaign, where they get the managers to throw out all the kids who are just hanging out there and not buying anything, just talking about comic books all the time. So Peachy mentioned that the reason they got rid of the old world game originally was people would show up to play it at the games, at the tournaments, and they'd buy like a new kit once a year to replace the guys their cat sat on, but they couldn't recruit new players because the armies took like 100 models per side.
Yeah.
And they couldn't maintain sales to those players because they had their 100 models. They didn't need any new ones. And it's why Age of Sigmar, if you look at it, it's like 50 models a side in a full-sized game. So new Warhammer, 9th, I think they tried to shrink down the game size to fewer models, didn't they?
Yeah. And they tried to shrink down the board size as well.
Yeah, that's you know what, I'm okay with that, having outside of Games Workshop outside of a Games Workshop establishment never being able to get a proper size board. I'm okay with it squeezing down from like 4 feet by 6 feet to like 40 inches by 60 inches.
Yeah, it was always a bit excessive, to be honest. You used to have the big matches on it and that, but you'd always spend like 2 turns waiting to get into combat with the enemy. And I think that's a part of the game that didn't really need to be there.
So I'm not worried about that thing as much as just the physical requirement of the table, but it would be Warhammer. There are some rule things that we could scream about, but I think moving to a slightly smaller table standard just made life easier.
Yeah.
But I think this isn't, and this thing isn't to try and erase history and make everybody go woke or whatever the screaming idiot that I was laughing at a few hours ago was saying. But they're trying to keep people buying new stuff.
Well, yeah, I
And
mean, clearly,
I don't think
it's a
they're
business
trying
model.
to do it by like saying your models are no good anymore. You have to buy all new stuff. As much as they're looking at these things and saying these kits are not selling well, or
Yeah.
we're going to do jump packs at some point. Why don't we get rid of these jump packs so that then when the new jump packs come out, there's nobody looking at two of them and saying, yeah, but these Firstborn jump packs are like £5 cheaper. And
It does make sense, yeah. Definitely from a
Yeah.
business perspective, I can see why it's been done.
Yeah, it's just,
did you see the interview with the old product development manager on the painting phase?
Maybe.
Sort of bald, but relentlessly charming despite that.
I think so. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he had a phrase he kept using called the hobby horn.
Oh, yes, yes.
And he brought up all these fun statistics like the more than anyone else, women aged 25 to 50 make up Games Workshop sales.
Yes, yeah, that was interesting one.
It's sort of this company. We're not exactly the target audience. Well, you two are, but I'm not exactly the target audience in the target demographic. And I think
neither of us have children, so like I think that's the prime one they said was mothers buying for children.
The assumption was that the people dropping 200 pounds a year in the shop are mums.
Yes, yes.
I mean, like even yeah.
I mean, I'm glad I don't have to share my models with any children.
Tammy, think of how much faster you could get through the models and buy more models if there were kids painting them with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
you'd have a team of child labourers.
Oh, that's capitalism. Okay, let's move on to the next slide.
Are we getting mad about Cursed City again?
Nah, we can get mad about that.
That's a whole other
time.
topic.
Yeah.
This is going to be a 2-hour podcast if we get into that.
Okay, 40k homebrewing. Some thoughts I have had.
Just make up unit cards for 1-page rules.
Yeah, if you have friends that regularly want to play games and are motivated about it, you can make up whatever you want.
I think the big pain and the big icky part of 1-page rules future games is that the rules all come in like a spreadsheet, and it's off-putting, and it feels like this world is so closed and tiny and it doesn't have any mysteries left in it. So just take those unit cards, take those rules, and lay them out on a little Warhammer style card, on a little data slate style card, or lay them out on 8 little data slate cards and print them off, and see if it still feels as boring as people say it is.
I am wondering that. I mean, the community is normally pretty good at sort of covering certain gaps. It's like when it was the Heralds of Ruin rule set that kept Kill Team a thing after, I think it was 4th edition, where Kill Team was kind of part of the rules. It's like here's how you can play a smaller game,
right?
And then between then and it coming back in towards the end of 7th edition as basically 40k light, which we had a few good games of. In between those editions, there was the Heralds of Ruin stuff, and it was essentially like community agreed rules to be able to play Kill Team games with what was the current edition of the game at the time. And I'm wondering if we might end up with parts of the community doing something similar for being able to play like Legends units or even discontinued units. Because it's the discontinued units that I'm pissed off about. It's not the actual Legends ones, but I can understand why people who like to play a certain way are pissed off because they can no longer play a certain way. But
Yeah.
it's the discontinued stuff. And if there's a like a community effort out there about writing like Legends Extra or Extra Legends rules for discontinued units, I think that could be quite a popular thing. I mean, there's probably like dozens of like fans out there thinking the same thing and wondering, if it could be a community thing. I mean, I can really see some tournaments and like competitive events being less strict about Legends units. Not official ones, obviously, because Games Workshop want people. They want people rocking up to a big tournament with a load of like their brand new models that people can go and go around and look at and go, "Ooh, I'm gonna buy one of them," as opposed to someone rocking up with like a Firstborn full Space Marine company, and everyone looking at that going, "Ooh, nostalgia," as opposed to "Ooh, new shiny must buy." But yeah, because it's such it's not like a couple of units here, a couple of units there, the way that they've gone with it. It was, first off, there was that big axe of models that still have perfectly legal rules, and then it was that big axe of rules for models that they were still selling at the time. That it's a lot of models, lot of units to go without, in such such a short space of time, like in one go. So I get the feeling there's going to be some community, or there has been community pushback. I mean, not that GW are probably listening or anything, but yeah, there has been some community pushback, and when that happens, the community tends to like fill in some of the cracks. So it, you never know. It might be that a completely unofficial set of data sheets is going to rock up.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who are still playing like homebrew versions of Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
Based on various previous rules.
Yeah.
I could see it happening.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's worth to look at not the Warhammer Community page, but the Warhammer Community.
Yes.
To see what's going on, because it would be great. What I would love to be able to do is play one of my second edition armies in the current edition using current edition rules and rules for the older units that have been like worked into this edition. It's like I mean, company veterans have completely gone, which is absurd, because that's basically a bodyguard unit for your captain in an edition where you've got leaders attaching 2 units. Yeah, and but it was also, I mean, it's been Legends for a while now, but company veterans with jump packs, they could be taken as a bodyguard for Dante. And I'm wondering if the new Marines with jump packs that are rumored are going to, be able to be used as bodyguard for Dante as veterans, because that unit was there from second edition in the Angels of Death Codex, right up until well, basically because you could take them in Legends right up until the end of 9th edition, but now there's just no rules for them.
Mm-hmm.
The only company veterans you can take are company veterans on bikes, which I'm okay with because I have company veterans on bikes, but I also have units of regular company veterans, and yeah, there aren't rules for them yet.
Fair. So I think in summary, like, I think we can all agree that maybe this stuff going to Legends is not the worst thing in the world.
No, but it's the actual
I'm
units
convinced
that are
it's
being.
much more upsetting than it needs to be. But
Yes.
I'm not saying that people are. It's like I think the knee-jerk reaction of being upset about it is reasonable. I'm just not convinced that staying upset about it is reasonable.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I got over the shock of it. What pissed me off were the units that were discontinued completely with the rules.
Sorry.
I mean,
So-
I want to play my Emperor's Children with a Relic Contemptor Dreadnought because I bought a Relic Contemptor Dreadnought. Well, I bought the Age of Darkness box, but so that I could have an Emperor's Children warband that are all shiny and purple, with like lots of heresy vibes, but plays within 40k. And so now I'm going to have to proxy if I wanted to play competitively. Actually, if I want to play it at all, because there are no rules for the for like Relic Dreadnoughts for Chaos Space Marines anymore, I'm going to have to proxy it as a regular Hellbrute. And
Just take the Space Marine Dreadnought rules and
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about homebrewing, because if we were gonna have a big game of 40k,
just call the whole army loyalists.
maybe. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if we were gonna have
Tammy starts thinking, wait a minute. All my Chaos units do have normal loyalist equivalences. It's a trick to make everyone a Space Marine customer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been a Space Marine customer since like 1995. I'm just
Yeah? What's the newest model you got?
the newest model I've got. The newest model is
Other than Leviathan.
other than Leviathan. I think it was a couple of boxes of intercessors for my White Scars.
Okay. I was going to make some joke that you haven't bought a model since 95 either.
No, Tammy does still buy stuff, but it's just that there's so much classic stuff to repaint over and over again.
Yeah. I like to have a balance between old stuff and new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Right.
with all the
So-
bright colours.
If you really want to play with whatever version of Warhammer and whatever models you want, technically there's nothing stopping you, but
Yeah.
you might have to like arrange the game ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to agree on what units you can take. There's not really going to be anything in the way of a quick game amongst casual acquaintances. I mean, between us,
If you're part of a gaming society or a store that finds out you're doing this and they say no, stop it, it's like loaning someone £5 and then you never hear from them again. It was worth every penny.
yeah. I mean, I would love for us to be able to come round, have a big game on my table, and we can just say, okay, yeah, we're doing Legends rules, or we've homebrewed something that you should be able to take, but you can't in any version. Yeah, we understand why people are pissed, and there are legitimate reasons to be pissed, namely the removal of like whole units without even a Legends option. But yeah, people are allowed to be pissed off, but is it as big a deal as it kind of feels at the moment, or when it first came out? What do people say? Yes or no? Just yes or no?
No.
Nah.
No.
Nah.
No.
And always remember, kids, if you really want to stick it to Games Workshop, paint all your models before buying new ones.
Yeah, that'll teach them.
Yes.
Because that means you'll never buy new models.
Cool.
Okay, well,
this
that's
has been
us.
fun.
Yeah. If you got this far, well done. And I'm Autumn Witch, and these people are.
I'm Amy, aka Warp Fiend.
I'm the Loft Goblin.
Laugh, 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 laugh.
Gotta love a goblin. Okay, we will catch you next time
Somebody
on.
should.
We will catch you next time on Bleeding Tree Gaming.
See ya.
Bye.
I don't want to catch anyone.